We're going to discuss one rule that kind of encompasses all of mental development. And I have a lot of people that come to my office, to the clinic, and there's one thing that I see is very substantial between two types of people that come to see me. One person, we managed to do a lot of work very quickly. They managed to develop, they managed to grow. Another type spend a lot of time stuck in the same place. And the big difference is growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And we're going to connect this to the Parsha, and we're going to have a lot of interesting things that connect with this. The growth mindset, a person is developing, he wants to develop, he wants to move forward, he doesn't want to stay in one place. And the fixed mindset, a guy that wants to, I'm good with where I am over here, and that's what I want. And welcome to the guest.
Hi.
It's nice to see almost everybody. Almost everybody. Okay, so, last week's Parsha, people didn't notice it a lot because it was like Shavuos, and then it was that Shabbos was kind of swallowed up. But we learned at the end of the Parsha, we learned something interesting in Parshas Nasa. This Parsha this week is Behaalotcha, but last week we learned about the 12 presidents of the tribes, heads of tribes that brought a lot of presents and beautiful things to the Mishkan. Lots of gold, lots of silver, lots of beautiful things. Mizrak echad kesef, a syringe of silver, right? It doesn't really mean a syringe. It means something you can pour from. Oh, yeah. And then we start off this parsha with Behaalotcha. Aharon HaKohen is gonna bring fire to the menorah. He's gonna light the menorah. And Rashi tells us that Aaron was sitting on the side. Aaron is the Kohen Gadol, right? He's the high priest. And he looks and he sees the heads of the tribes, and he sees them bringing beautiful stuff to the Mishkan. And he also wants to bring stuff. It's a little bit of a different mindset than we have, because a lot of times I look at somebody and he's donating 1,000 shekels to shul. And I think to myself, he's 1,000 shekels poorer. And that's not the way to think about it. And especially you can see over here, Aaron is looking at them and he's like, wow, they bring such amazing things. They're bringing this. This is the way to transfer your wealth into the world to come.
What happened?
Right? There was a person that said, I'm going to transfer all my wealth to the world to come. And his kids were shocked when he died. He said in his will, I want all my money, all $250 million with me in heaven. You have to bury them with me in the grave so I can bring them with me. So the kids thought, what are you going to do? What are we going to do? And one of them was clever. And he said, sure thing. And he wrote him a check. And he buried him with the check. So that's a way. You can't bring your wealth. The ancient Greeks used to bury with 2 coins, 1 gold coin over each eye, because you need 2 gold coins to cross the river Styx, to cross into the spirit world, the spirit realm.
Then they were all gone after the day.
But you still
They were gone off that day.
You can still see the cavities.
We actually. Oh, very. So we find some of them.
I looked at it.
So we find some of them with the gold coin. The gold coin is in the back of the skull because there's nothing left, and the big holes over here.
Yeah.
So that's those are the ones that survive, but a lot of them were looted. The river Styx is Nahar Dinur. Nahar Dinur is something else. Nahar Dinur is a spiritual river that comes out of the sweat of the angels that stand in front of God and sweat. But it's also made out of fire. Oh, and everybody has to go through. That's a very interesting thing. We should look through the parallels of Nahar Dinur and River Styx. If you dial Kiddush Hashem, you go straight up to heaven. And God takes your soul and puts it as part of his garment. the clothes that Hashem wears is the tzaddikim that died al Kiddush Hashem. When we go to Nova, and I mentioned, right, so many people were killed over there. 365, something like 365 to 364 people were killed there, and just in the Nova area. God has all their souls sewn into his garment that he wears. It's a big garment, yes, a lot of
Was
souls.
there some that weren't Jewish?
That's a good thing. Some of them weren't Jewish. Over there, there were no Thai workers. Some of the Russians. There's a question about the Russians, but there's an interesting thing with pikuach nefesh. If somebody's being persecuted because he's a Jew, this Russian guy, a Hamas guy is chasing him with the gun because he's a Jew, thinking he's a Jew, you need to save him. Do you know that? That's the halacha. That's why we brought, all the rabbis said, you have to bring the Ethiopians. A lot of the Ethiopians were suffering certain persecutions back in the 80s. The Ethiopians back in the 80s, you have to bring them to Israel because it was becoming very difficult for them. And so at the end of the day, you have to save somebody if he's perceived as being Jewish. So there's an interesting thing here. For sure, they have a very high place in Olam HaEmes. There's a guy I always point out over there. This is really not what I thought I'd be talking about. This is very, very interesting this year how, in my mind, I started off with one thing and we're going in a very interesting direction. Osama Abu Isa. He is in a very high place in the world to come. And you think, what? That's what I tell my groups. And they say, what? He's an Arab. I said, yes. But he saved Jews. He tried to save Jews, at least. He stood in the entrance to Migunit. There were 30 people in this bomb shelter. Hamas came. He came out to them. He said, this is my family. Leave them alone. They said, no, they're Jews. And be careful protecting them. He said, no, it's my family. Then they looked and they saw Aner Shapira in the entrance. And Aner Shapira, Hashem Yikom Damo. He's the guy that when they threw in the grenades, he threw out 8 grenades and he saved.
Yeah, I went to the actual. I was there.
You were actually there. We should all actually be there.
Can you throw back the grenades?
You can throw back the grenades. You have, how many seconds do you have for a grenade to blow up? 3? 5 seconds? That's a lot of time. So they saw Ner Shapira and then they beat this guy Osama up and then they shot him in the head. So he risked his life to save Jews and he was killed. He's a Chassid Umas Ha'olam at least. It's a person with a growth mindset. That's where we want to kind of channel this towards. And if we go back to Aharon HaKohen, Aharon is looking and he's jealous at the Nisim that they bring so many good things to the Mishkan, to the tabernacle. And what has he brought? He hasn't brought anything yet. So Hashem says to him, just know, these 12 tribe leaders brought special stuff. They brought gold, silver, they brought korbanos, they brought sheep. You're going to bring something greater than that. You're going to light the candles in the Mishkan. It's an interesting thing. That is definitely considered higher, even though it's not fancy like bringing the gold and the silver and all the other things. But lighting the candles is a very high thing, and only one person does that. And you light from the Western candle that's still there. But let me ask you, is Aharon jealous? Now, jealousy is a fixed mindset, usually. If I say he's better than me, that's very upsetting. Give you an example of a fixed mindset. There were 2 brothers in Krakow that were contracted. Both of them were engineers. Both of them were building towers. This is in the Stara Miasto, in the center of old Krakow. And they're building these towers. And the older brother's looking at the younger brother, and his tower is much prettier than his. And the more they go higher up, he's looking at his brother's tower, and the younger brother's tower is nicer. And so At a certain point, the older brother got so upset when the younger brother was in his sleep, he stabbed him. Then he killed him. And then the brother could continue at least, and he's made his higher. And when you go to the center of Krakow, you see one tower which is a little shorter, which is nicer. That's the younger brother, and the other one which is taller, and that's the older brother who had a fixed mindset. You don't kill your rival, your brothers, for heaven's sake. It's a fixed mindset of I need this without developing. A growth mindset is win-win situations. You're looking for win-win situations. You're looking for situations where how can we do something together that'll bring me money and you money? They can work together, they can add, they can grow. And when you're looking to destroy, that's the fixed mindset. And so the older brother at the end goes to the top of the tall tower and he calls out to the people of Krakow and he says, people of Krakow, I want you to know I'm confessing over here my sin. I was the one who stabbed my brother. You didn't know who it was, but it was me. And I feel so terrible about it. And he jumped off the roof, and he jumped and killed himself over there. The older one, yeah, the older one. After he killed his brother, he killed himself also, which is another example of a fixed mindset, which is, okay, you did something terrible. If he stood in for trial of what would happen over there, would they kill him? Probably not without witnesses. He could have done more with his life. He didn't have to end his life. He was a successful engineer. These are the two top engineers in Krakow. How did he get to be a top engineer with a fixed mindset? I don't know. But sometimes it changes. Aharon HaKohen is jealous of the 12 leaders of the tribes, but it's not a fixed mindset. It's a growth mindset. Jealousy can serve as a fixed mindset, like the brother who killed the brother, but jealousy can also serve as kinat sofrim tarbeh chokhmah. The more I want something holy, the more I'm going to push myself.
We'll have brothers that were in a good place.
Very good, very good. Shmuel's showing the comparison more. There's more of a comparison here between these two brothers and Aaron and Moshe. And it says at the beginning of Sefer Shemos, in Parsha Shemos, it says, Hashem says to Moshe by the snare, he says, you're worried? I'm making you the person who's going to speak to Am Yisrael. You're going to be the Navi, you're going to be the Mashiach. Moshe was the Mashiach. There was a Mashiach for that situation, right? He took Am Yisrael out of Egypt. And you're going to be my messenger for that. And don't worry about your brother, your older brother. Aaron is an older brother. He's going to see you and he's going to be happy in his heart. He's going to be happy for you, that you are moving forward in life, that you are actualizing yourself by being a messenger of God. He is not going to be jealous. Aharon HaKohen had a growth mindset in every way. He had it back then when he's happy with other people's successes, and he has a growth mindset now with being jealous of the Nesiim for bringing these korbanos, because he also wants to do something holy, and then God says to them, yes, I'm going to give you something holy. There's a question if maybe that jealousy is what brought him to being the one who's going to light the menorah. It could be that it's sachar.
There's no jealousy.
It's a good jealousy.
That could have been done.
Kinat sofrim is kin'ah. It is jealousy, but it's a good jealousy. When I see somebody else learning seriously, he does a siyum. He finishes season 1. I mean, the first parak of brachas, and he's going through the second parak of brachas, and then I want to. It makes me want to do it. It's kinat sofrim. It actually doesn't feel like jealousy. If we just break down, you guys have been jealous of somebody else? Do you remember being jealous? Let's see if I saw other friends of mine who are therapists that have a fuller office than I do. I can imagine I was feeling jealous. That's a certain feeling of, I don't know, the jealousy, the negative jealousy that we talk about, the kin'ah, that's rekev atzmot kin'ah, the thing that rots your bones, is a certain type of jealousy, which I'm not connecting to now. But maybe I can tell you a story that'll connect you a little better. There's somebody here that won the lottery, a regular guy, and he bought the apartment. Yeah, thank you. I'll take some. And he bought the apartment next to him. This regular guy, he wins the lottery, buys the apartment next to him, and his neighbor is really jealous. He has a double apartment. He did renovations. Everything's nice inside, mirrors on the walls, gold, fancy stuff all over, and he's really jealous. And what makes it more jealous is sometimes the wife will push. Well, but the neighbor, she has something very nice. And why don't we have that? That can push you into a fixed place. That is the bad jealousy. That is not the jealousy we want to have. We want to have the jealousy that develops us. So, what did his wife actually tell him in the situation? He came to her and he said, I'm jealous of the neighbor. I try not to be jealous, but I'm jealous. He has this nice house, and now he has a fancy car, and another fancy car, and where are we? And she said to him, by the way, he desperately needs a kidney transplant. He's dying. And all of a sudden, he's not jealous of him anymore. Wow. That just disappeared. Imagine if he was the one actually giving him the kidney, right? So you could say, right. It's an important thing to know when you're faced with jealousy. When you see somebody else, I see somebody, a therapist that has a fuller office than I do. There's stuff that he's facing that I don't even know about. To be jealous of somebody else means you're missing something, means you don't know. Everybody has their pekela. And you have your pekela, and you have your pekela, and you have your pekela. You have things that are weighing on you, difficulties, childhood traumas, inner wounds, things that none of us know. Everybody has a world where nobody else is in there. And they say that one day Hashem said, bring all your pekelas, bring it all to the middle. And they all put their pekelas in the middle, all their problems, their childhood traumas, the debts that they owe people, all the terrible things that happened to them, they put it all in the middle. And then God said, you can take somebody else's. Well, do you want to take his pekela? You want to take his pekela? Everybody go and pick a pekela. And everybody went in and took a pekela, and it ended up, they took their own. Because everybody wants to deal with what they have and not to deal with somebody else's problems. And yeah, Hashem gave you the strength to deal with your problems and not somebody else's problems. Who knows what you would do in their shoes? You cannot really be in somebody else's shoes. Now, the kinas sofrim, the good jealousy, doesn't even feel like the emotion of jealousy. When I see somebody finishing the first parak of brachas, going through the second half of the brachas.
I finished the second.
You finished the second parak. It's an inspiring feeling. It's an inspirational thing. It's an exciting thing. It's not something which feels like jealousy. So it's an interesting thing, right? You can have a jealousy where I want what he has, and then you flip it, and then I'll push. That sounds more like the kinas sofrim. So you actually have three kind of emotions of it. You have the bad jealousy. Why does he have it? I want it. I want it. There's another one, which is the inspiration. And there's the one in the middle where it starts off by, I want it, but you know what? I'm going to work to get that.
I saw this one guy, he built his own house. And he went through a ton of struggle to get there. And when I saw him going through the struggle, I was like, I do not want to build my own house. When I saw the final result, I'm like, I want that. But he went through the problems. He deserves the house.
Oh, you don't even know what the person had to do to get to where he is. How much work? Yeah. I see other people that have that are successful, and sometimes I know their stories of how they got there. And it's, you want to become that. You want to become a psychiatrist, go learn for 11 years in university and become a psychiatrist. Yeah, do you want to put in that 11 years? No, so can't complain about that. This idea of growth versus fixed is a very important idea, and we see it going forward. And if we to move forward, Sefer Bamidbar, we're starting to go through it. It flips in this week's Parsha. There's a flipping point. There's Vehi bin Aharon is where it flips. Like till now, you know what we had? We had Bamidbar, we had the numbers of Am Yisrael, we had the way Am Yisrael goes through the desert, the way the Levium are organized. We had mitzvahs of Nazir, we had Sota, we had the Nisiim, and there's a lot of numbers and a lot of names. And then when you get to Ve'ibn Aaron, there's two backwards nuns. Have you ever seen that? The two backwards nuns in the Torah, which is very weird. And in the middle it says Ve'ibn Aaron ve'Moshe kum Hashem v'futzevecha v'nusim esanecha b'panecha. And then it's like its own sefer. Some say Bamidbar is 3 Sfarim. There's a Chazal. It says Bamidbar is 3 Sfarim. It's till this Parsha, till the two nuns. The two nuns are their own Parsha. Ve'ibn Aaron is their own sefer. And then things go downhill. We're going to start going downhill because we're going to start hearing about the misonanim. The people are complaining. We hear about the Slav. The misonanim say, we need meat. In Egypt, we had meat. It was good. I want to go back to Egypt. So God brings quail, little birds that fly over, and they get to eat those birds. But those people who complained start dying. The meat gets stuck in their teeth and they die. And so you have that. And then you have a series of things coming up. And you have the Meraglim. And the Meraglim is, you really see fixed mindset in the Meraglim. Because you have 12 spies. You have 10 that go, and they see giants, and they start saying, Areinu Anakim, Hainu Kechagavim, V'chen Hainu Beineim. They saw us as locusts. Like to say, they perceived, how do you know what they perceived you as locusts? How do you know that? And they're seeing it in a very negative light. Whereas the other two Meraglim, who are the other two Meraglim? The good ones? Kalev and Yeshua. They see good things. They see a nice land, a lush land, a land of milk and honey. They see good. And so this is really where you see this, the mindset. The mindset different is in the mind. You're seeing the same thing, but you're understanding it differently. The Meraglim see something very negative, and you have Kalev and Yeshua that see something very positive.
There were also Kaputa Metim. And Hashem did it in order for them that they won't see him. They won't see them coming. So they're like, oh no, and everybody's dying, and Hashem.
Yeah, right. There was one of the giants died that day. Right? I think that's what it was. And there was a big Levaya. When the Meraglim come into Israel, there's this, they're burying somebody. And so the idea, they would bury them so that they would be, God made this so that they would be busy with burying, and they wouldn't see and they wouldn't notice the spies coming in. Right? The Canaanim are burying their dead. And so the 10 Meraglim said, hey, everybody's dying over here, it's terrible. But Yeshua and Kalev, they understood, no, God did this because it was so that they would be distracted. And that's really how it boils down to it. How do you see things? When things happen in your life, is it bad? A lot of times somebody might say something to you. A lot of times they don't mean bad, but you can perceive it as something bad. especially when you get a text. How many times do you get a text and you look at it as something negative? Something, he's a famous story. This is during like World War One in the Russian army, and the father gets a telegram from his son. And the telegram says, "Dear father, shoes broken, send new." And the father sees his telegram and he says, "That ungrateful son. I need to send him new shoes. He's just complaining. What is this?" Goes to the army, and then he becomes like this, and he's all upset. And he goes to the rabbi. And the rabbi, he shows the rabbi, he says, look what my son wrote to me. And he shows it to him, and the rabbi looks at it and he says, "This is so beautiful. Such a touching," I was about to say text, "such a touching telegram. Dear father." Do you know how much each letter costs for him to send this? And he added the "dear father" at the beginning because he cares so much. And then after he's respecting you, he's telling you his situation. You know, my shoes are broken. I need new shoes. I think you should get him new shoes. And the father said, "Wow, I really didn't understand that that's what he was actually saying." So it's one text, you can read it in different ways. And the father was presenting a fixed mindset. He was fixed. He was projecting from his own life. He's fixed in a little box. Something happened to him at work, something happened to him during the day. He's already upset. Maybe he's upset with his son also, but then he's projecting his anger onto the piece of paper, and it's not there. You can also read this in a very neutral way. When we hear the story, we're not emotionally connected, so we can be objective. We can be the fly on the wall examining the situation who has the best perspective on what's going on. He's objective. And that's another thing within the growth mindset, the ability to change perspectives. That's actually a superpower. To be able to see, I'm angry with somebody, I want to see the situation through his eyes. If you can do that, you have a superpower. That's an NLP. I'm in first position. He's in the second position. And the third position is the fly on the wall watching us. And that's a very neutral standpoint because he's not involved in the situation. And you want to develop the skill of being able to switch positions so that you can get a richer perspective and not be locked in. A person who's locked in, a person who has a fixed mindset can only do this and that, can only go from here to work and back. He's not open. He doesn't have perspective. He doesn't have a rich map. His map his inner map is very small. They did a study about people who consider themselves wealthy. People consider themselves lucky. But one person considers himself lucky, another person considers himself unlucky. And they followed them and they tried to see. The lucky person, they hid money, like in the bushes outside his house or on the other side of the wall, and he found it. The unlucky person, they put it on the road in front of him, he didn't see it. They came with a big truck that said, if your name is David Cohen, you get 5,000 shekels. It was big. And he didn't even see it because he's locked in. It's a fixed mindset. Whereas the one who considers himself lucky, the only difference is that he's more open. He's more open to more experiences. So it's not about perspectives in particular, it's about being more open, experiencing things as something new. You know, a lot of the stories I said here, there could have been stories that you already heard. But you want to approach the story with a new light. A lot of times I go to a site that I guide a lot, and I hear a different guide guiding it. Right? Sometimes I'm not the tour guide. Sometimes there's a tour guide over there. And I want to hear from him. I was in Auschwitz, and there's a local guide over there. And so I want to also hear his perspective. I want to be open to this. You know, even though I've guided there a lot and I know a lot of things, I want to experience it. Even if it's the same stories, it's different to hear it from somebody else. And you want to allow yourself to see that difference. I'm going to tell you another story, and this is going to be towards the end. We're approaching the end of this shiur. There were a few Hasidim about 200 years ago, 150 years ago, and they were going to Lezhensk, to the Rebbe Melech's kever. He had passed away already. And they were traveling with an eglon, with a driver. How do you say an eglon? A guy that's riding with a horse and buggy. And so what happened was they discovered that the eglon had actually met Rebbe Melech. He was an older guy, he met him, and they were all excited. Can you tell us, Eglon, what was it like to meet the greatest Rebbe of all the Rebbes? And he said to them, well, it was a long time ago, but I can tell you what happened. He said, I went to Rebbe Melech with some Chassidim, and they all went in. And they don't really get the point. Why didn't you go into a rabbi? Why? I had been driving for a long time, so I went for a walk around. I came back, and my horse was stolen. And I was shocked. And the Chassidim who came out from the Rebbe said, you have to go tell Rebbe Melech. You have to go speak to him, get some advice. So he went to Rebbe Melech, and Rebbe Melech looked at him, and he stroked his beard, and he said, go up on the hill. On the next hill, there's a bald spot inside the trees. That is where you're going to find what you're looking for. Find what you're looking for. And he said, fine, he got up, he went over the hill and onto the next hill, and there's a bald spot between the trees, and he found his horse just standing there. And so the Chassidim that are hearing him tell the story, they said, no, and? You found yourself? You found what you're looking for? He said, yes, I found the horse. No, and? They want to hear, did he do tshuva? Did he change? How did this change him? And what did he say? He said, what do you want me to tell you? I don't think Rebbe Melech himself was the thief, but he was definitely part of the group who stole the horse. That is a fixed mindset in the most transparent way, in your face. The rabbi told him where it is, and he said, you'll find yourself, you'll find what you're looking for, He's giving him hints. There's more over there. But a fixed mindset only sees the horse. And only is interested in the horse. And why did the horse go missing? He's probably guilting himself and wondering how could he been lost to begin with? Somebody must have stolen him. He must have been part of the people who stole him. And so here you can really see what it means to be a concrete head. People like this don't even come to therapy usually. People like this, they know better than all the therapists. They don't even come. They're not interested. They're not interested in helping themselves. A lot of times their marriages are very difficult. Their relationships are very difficult. These are difficult people, and we encounter these difficult people on a regular basis. I'll end with this, that we should see in ourselves where we can be more open-minded, where we can be more growth-minded, and we should, wherever we are now, we should grow up to here and beyond.